Morning, everybody. How are you?
Good, good. I'm actually going to hand this portion of the meeting over to Lee Lieberg. He is our GAD, and he'll go through kind of introducing who is going to speak on the different items that we covered while in Sacramento and Washington, D.C., representing you and your clients. So join me in welcoming Lee Lieberg.
Thank you, Susie. Carl, good to see you. All right. These meetings are real important. We just got back from Sacramento and Washington, D.C. We took a team of about 20 up to Sacramento and probably had about 8 back in D.C. at N.A.R. The people that go, they get a lot out of it, but they also make sacrifices to go. So we appreciate their representing us, and I thank you for coming out this morning to hear the updates, because I think they are important and we need to spread the word, and that's part of why we do what we do, is to go up there and bring the word back to you. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to call on Kevin Kwan to talk about dual agency, Helen Marston to talk about service tax, Susie to talk about affordable housing, Karen Hewitt will talk about the legislative day experience, Yin Burr will talk about global back in D.C. at N.A.R., and then Tom Berge Jr. will give an overview of N.A.R. And if there's any time left, then I'll fill it. All right, so let me call on Kevin Kwan first up.
Good morning, everybody. Can you guys hear me? Uh-oh. It's been a while since I've been up here, so I'm a little nervous. I am going to be talking about dual agency. Who likes dual agency? Raise your hand. Who does not like dual agency? Couple of people. Well, write this down if dual agency is a big concern for yourself. So if you like to double end and make twice the amount of money, AB 1059, Gonzalez Fletcher. This is going through the tables right now, and as all you guys know, dual agency is when you represent both a buyer and seller from the same firm. So what this is trying to do is actually eliminate dual agency, but not on the residential platform first. This is actually through the commercial platform. There is a commercial brokerage that actually represents only tenants that is sponsoring this bill. And what they're trying to do is they're trying to oppose that, we cannot do dual agency. As you guys know right now in California's state law, if you do want to represent both a buyer and a seller in a transaction, what do we need to do? Disclose, right? So what this is basically stating, or what they're trying to do is, in a transaction, if let's say on a commercial platform, if you have an open house or a broker tour, if you're trying to have a broker tour and somebody comes in during that time and they want to see other properties, that's how nervous I'm getting up here, guys. It would not be allowed, right? So somebody would have to be represented by another firm in order to be able to show either that property or any other property out there. So AB 1059, if you talk to any of your local legislators, let them know about this, because if this gets passed in the commercial realm, mostly what will happen right after that is this will probably get passed through into the residential world. So if you want your double-ended commission, make sure that this does not get passed, and speak to your local legislators, because it will indefinitely pass over into the residential world if that gets passed. So AB 1059, make sure you guys know about that. If you guys have any further questions, yes?
Can I speak to that?
If you would like, yes, sir.
I don't think I need a microphone. But I feel this is the destruction of our industry.
you go out there and you go online to our database, look at all the double-ended deals, you'll find that those agents are underselling the properties and cheating the public out of money. That's my opinion. I wrote 52 offers in 2015, made 0 sales off those 52 offers. Why? Because they're all double-ended. That means that our agents are going to stop being agents because they're not making the sales. Only lose the agents when we stay in business.
That's right.
And that's the destruction of our industry. If you want to see that, besides C.A.R. trying to take over everything in our database and everything, that is going to destroy our industry. You're not going to have a building like this to go to. You're not going to have anything. So we can't survive on 1,000 agents in this association. And that's where we're headed at that. If we don't get rid of the agents. Thank you.
Any other comments?
But you know what? He has a point, but since this is doing a commercial, I've noticed, I am a residential, but I'm going into commercial. I've noticed these commercial brokers, they will not talk to you. Once they find out that you're residential, they'll right away ask you, just give me your client, I'll give you a referral fee. Why won't we do that? We've earned our strike. Why can't we just keep on going? And he's right, our industry is gonna get cut down to smaller, because there is a lot of listing agents that will double in their stuff and reap the reward. So, you know, I really hope this goes through, because it's gonna open up for everyone to start going into commercial and expanding their horizons.
I like the feedback. William?
Yeah, everyone going straight into commercial real estate is not a good idea, because commercial real estate is incredibly specialized. The reason commercial agents don't want to work with residential agents is because there's so much increased liability. As someone who's done commercial real estate, when we did have a residential real estate agent on the side, we did 99% of the work. Not to just protect them from liability, but also to protect us from liability. So in terms of dual agency, I definitely agree with Bob. Too many agents are doing it unethically. There needs to be greater policing if there's going to be dual agency allowed. So I think you should start on the residential side as opposed to the commercial side.
Thank you, William. I will hold off on all the questions right now because we have a couple other speakers that need to come after me, but I appreciate all the comments. These are wonderful things because what we could do is take this back to the next meetings, but Mr. Lieberg?
Thank you, Kevin. All right, at this time, I'd like to call on Helen Marston to talk about service tax. We're somewhat familiar with this. It came up a year ago. I think it was SB 8 at the time, and she'll give us an update.
Good morning, everyone. I hope this one won't be controversy. Senate Bill 640, introduced by Senator Herzberg on February 17, 2017. So this bill basically a foundation to impose a sales tax on services in California. So that definitely include real estate transaction service. And we all know we are realtors, professionals, and real estate transaction is very service intensive process. So think about doing a transaction, appraiser, home inspection, staging, loan brokers, real estate brokers, home roof certifications, termite, and home repairs. Not even mention prior to sales, those preparations, and after purchase, home landings, landscapings, and home improvements. So all these totaled up probably will comprise about 13% of the price of the home. So it will dramatically increase the cost for home buyers and sellers as well. For example, basing on last year's median home price, $502,250, a service tax, if it's 7.5%, that will increase the cost of buying home by over $4,750. That increase would prevent more than 55,600 families from being able to afford the medium price house. If a lower tax, 5% enacted, they still would increase over 37,200 families priced out of the market. So in California, we already suffer from housing affordability and supply price crisis. So impose the service tax on our transaction only make the situation worse. So mean that keeping low and middle income families from buying homes. And think about if the service tax on the investing homes properties. So all those addition costs will be naturally passed on to the renters. So we have a few renters afford the rentals. And furthermore, all the service business involved and the individual and the businesses, in order to avoid all these extra costs, they will seek the companies out of state to provide the services. So it eventually will hurt our state economic. So C.A.R. opposed this bill. Remember, SB 640. We strongly oppose it.
All right, the next issue is affordable housing, and affordable housing has really reached a crisis in California, and it's affecting everything else that the legislature does. We're seeing it through the advocacy of rent control, and all the other types of things. I'm going to call on Susie to come up and talk about it.
Roaring in there. Sounds like a wilder party than we're having. As Lee mentioned, I'm going to speak on affordable housing. And when we were in Sacramento, we just kind of touched on it with our legislators, not going into detail. Right now, there's 130 bills regarding housing. There's 13 right now that are active that C.A.R. is watching. And just kind of to touch on the importance of our Realtor Action Fund, those of you that feel it's not important to invest in your future, your career, the importance of investing in that is what goes on in Sacramento and DC. So I heard the number that the average realtor has a savings of over $8,600 a year based on the lobbying that goes on in your favor in protecting you. So to contribute more than your $49 truly is a huge benefit to you, and we'll get into that at another time. But just so you know why we're here and the issues that we're fighting on your behalf. On the affordable housing, 3 million additional homes are needed by 2030. The state must build 180,000 houses or dwellings per year to catch up to that number. So right now, California is a rental. I think we're like 51 or 54% of a rental state. And what they're looking at within the next 20, 30 years is we'll be over an 80% rental state if we don't fight to help keep affordable housing, increase the units. And what we're doing to work with the lawmakers can do is streamline the permit process. There's some, each city has some, legislation that they can do, and they're kind of holding back on that. So we're asking our assembly members to kind of help push that through so that the cities can't put a moratorium on any building that's needed. Also fixing CEQA to fast track the affordable housing, require local government to implement housing needs, fund affordable housing, and defeat proposed laws that discourage rental housing construction. As Lee mentioned, there's a big focus on rent control, which also is going to affect our clients and us. Currently, I'm not going to go into detail because there's 13 that are active right now, but there's eight bills right now that support legislation to increase the supply of housing, and there's 5 that we're opposing legislation that discourages the creation of new rental housing. So there's a lot out there going on that will affect our business, our clients. I can provide you the details in those bills if you want to read further into them, because there are 13 that are included within the 130 that affect the 130 bills that affect housing altogether. We met with Ed Chow, who is our assemblyman in Sacramento. Kind of got some mixed support with him, so we do have our work cut out with C.A.R. as well. So know that we're back there with our best interests at hand. Thank you.
All right. Now, Legislative Day is the day that we all go up there and we march on the Hill. We had 2,300 realtors from around the state this year that came up. And what a lot of the associations do, and what we do as well, is we'll send our directors, our statewide directors, but then we'll bring a few other people along so that they can see the process and begin to get involved. One of those people for us this year, I think it was her second year, was Karen Hewitt. So I'm going to call on Karen to come up and talk about her Legislative Day experience.
Good morning, everybody. I started real estate 3 years ago, and I had my opportunity in my first year as a realtor to participate in Legislative Day in Sacramento. At the time, I had really little knowledge about the industry other than we sell and buy property for our clients. And the 2 days that I spent in Sacramento for my very first Legislative Day was not only an eye-opener, but it also changed the way that I looked at my business. And since my first Legislative Day back in 2015, I knew that I wanted to be a part of a group of realtors that are involved not only in the local communities, but also in the state and the federal level. And since then, I've joined the legislative committee in our association, and I'm also the liaison for the city of San Gabriel on behalf of our association. I got to see firsthand how powerful we are as an industry, working with legislators to voice our concerns about bills and potential legislation that gets passed at the Senate level. I quickly realized that we are the voice of our clients, we're the voice of our fellow realtors such as yourselves, and homeowners, and we help them fight on issues that would have an impact on our clients and on our industry. And if we don't have the support of our fellow realtors, we would not be able to fight for issues that impact our business and our industry and be able to advocate for home ownership rights. I really highly encourage all realtors in our association to take advantage of the experience of going to Legislative Day in Sacramento to see firsthand how powerful we are as a group and how we work together with our legislators on issues that pertain to our industry. Thank you.
All right. Excuse me. If you're interested in going next year, talk to one of us, and we'll tell you how to go about doing it, because we need all the help we can get. We're fighting a lot of battles up there right now. All right, that concludes the Sacramento portion of it. Now we're going to go to the Washington, D.C. part of it at N.A.R. And I'm going to call on Yin Burr, past president, to come and speak about Global. She is chair of the N.A.R. Global Committee, and she'll give us an update.
Thank you, Lee, and good morning, everyone. I am the chair of the CIPS Advisory Board at N.A.R. So we did have a meeting there. We talked about how we can improve the CIPS Institute And also we approved 374 new CIPS for the year. So many of them came to Washington, D.C. to receive their CIPS pin. So I hope that if you're not a CIPS yet, that you will consider taking the CIPS Institute. We are going to have one in August this year at our association, and I hope that you will take advantage of that. At the CIPS Advisory Board meeting, we discussed how to improve the coursework, the syllabus, and also how we can vet the new instructors for the CIPS Institute. And besides that, we, at other global meetings, other related global meetings, we also had speakers, and I would encourage you to go on the website, go to realtor.org/international, and you will see many of the presentations that were made at the Washington, D.C. meetings. We had presentations by Lawrence Yun talking about the international real estate market, and also different speakers that were very informative about the EB-5. We hear that Congress is considering eliminating the EB-5 program, but this year is going to continue. And on that note, next week at our association, we have a global summit, and we are going to have many presentations relating to our global activities. And one of our speakers is going to be talking about EB-5 and about fraud and what is going to happen in the future with this program. So I hope that you too would come and sign up for that program. Most importantly, again, I reiterate that we go on realtor.org/international or global and find out and go through all the slides, show, and presentations that were made during our Washington, D.C. trip. Okay, I think that's the end of my report.
Thank you, Yin. Now I'd like to bring up Tom Berge Jr., who is our N.A.R. director and has been for several years. And I can assure you that we are well represented when we go back to D.C. To walk the halls with Tom is an experience in itself. You can't go more than about 10 feet without somebody coming up and saying, "Hey, Tom, how you doing?" And he's got his hands in so many different things back there. But here's Tom Berge Jr.
Thank you, Lee, and good morning, everyone. It's really my honor to represent the association as the large board representative of West San Gabriel Valley Association of Realtors. And I don't know if each of you know how the allocations are set. The way that it is, it's based on membership. So each association gets one N.A.R. director per 2,000 members. So we have, where's Albert? We have about 2,700 members or thereabouts. So we have one N.A.R. director, and again, it's my honor that the board has selected me this year, and actually they just selected me to be the N.A.R. director moving forward in 2018. So I want to thank the board of directors for their confidence in me, and most of all, I want to thank all of you, the members, that's who we're here to serve, and really why we're here. We're trying to protect the American dream and encourage private property rights and home ownership for everyone. So now I'll move into a little bit of the stuff that some of the stuff will be is a little bit dry. I gotta admit that there's some dry material in here. Some of which will be interesting to you. Some of it which maybe you don't care as much about. But I'll just give you a brief overview of the things that happened while we were back in Washington, D.C. And then if you have any questions about any of it, you can feel free to ask Lee or I. Probably won't have time after I get done. but we'll be glad to answer any questions after the meeting, or anyone that was at. I'm sure Yen would do the same, or any of the other officers that were back in DC. So anyway, moving right into my report to you. So N.A.R., the Board of Directors has reaffirmed our support for Project Upstream. And what the board did is they voted to continue the support of Project Upstream, which is a technology that was developed to give brokers and agents a better way to manage their listing data and direct its distribution to MLSs, vendors, and third-party listing data aggregators. This all came about and was spearheaded by a broker-run and formed LLC called Upstream RE LLC, and the technology has been successfully demonstrated by our MLS, which is a realtor-owned MLS up in the Portland, Oregon area. They have several other demonstrations that are planned for this summer with brokers and MLSs throughout the country. So they could, if you work for a large brokerage, you have a much better chance of them coming out to you, obviously, and seeing you and giving you a live demo than my father or I would, and my brother at an office of 3 agents. So anyway, that's something to look forward to if you're working for a big brokerage. People ask me all the time, being the chairman of the board of C.A.R. MLS and being the chairman of MLS policy at N.A.R., what I think about Project Upstream. Well, what I think is I'm supportive of it in concept, but they have and I think that anyone on the board of directors of C.A.R. MLS or the technical staff will tell you the same thing. They have a monumental task ahead of them to accomplish this with there's 720 MLSs throughout the entire United States. And it's a monumental task just to get everyone to agree to a set of rules, and that's why we're migrating towards standards, which is the Real Estate Standards Organization and the Data Dictionary that is going to help standardize listing data that's available not only in the MLSs, but also that goes out and gets syndicated to third-party data aggregators. But anyway, I'm straying a little bit off the subject. I just want to give you a little bit of background on it. So in comments to the board of directors in DC, Upstream's chairman Down Elsia likened the Upstream to technologies that exist in other industries, including ATPCO, which is the source of airline fare-related data. Elsia heads one of the nation's largest independent brokerages, Real Estate One, but he indicates and truly believes that Upstream will benefit the large and small brokerage alike. And I would tend to agree with that if everything that they said is true. I think that it would be a benefit to people not having to do multiple entries on your own personal into the MLS and then into your own personal website and any other place that you may be syndicating to. Luckily, being a member of C.A.R. MLS, you have the advantage that we have multiple syndication outlets that you can directly via your dashboard through C.A.R. MLS, and or your broker can do that for you. It's up to the broker where they want to send their listings, so keep that in mind at all times. The vote authorized N.A.R. to fund $1.5 million for administrative costs through 2018, as well as up to $7.5 million to support deployment of the technology to Realtors Property Resource, otherwise known as RPR, the N.A.R. subsidiary that developed the technology. Earlier in the week, Upstream RE announced a new broker of choice model, which will enable listing data to be input directly into Upstream or flow to Upstream from the MLS. The board's decision came at the Saturday, May 20th board meeting, which capped off the Realtors legislative meetings and Trade Expo in DC, which nearly 10,000 Realtors attended. In regards to the CFPB structure change that's being sought, the board supported a proposal to restructure the CFPB by replacing the single director arrangement with a 5-member board whose members would be appointed by the president and confirmed by the Senate. Under the proposal, no more than 3 CFPB board members would come from one political party. The The existing independent agency structure and funding sources would remain unchanged. On the ADA front, ADA lawsuits, of course, they should be a last resort. And the board's calling for legislation requiring that parties who claim violations of the Americans with Disabilities Act, otherwise known as ADA, notify the person or organization responsible for the alleged violation and give them an opportunity to remedy it before they file a lawsuit. So I think that that's something that's, that would be good legislation, in my personal opinion. FHA fund calculations, the board supported the exclusion of reverse mortgages when HUD calculates the minimum capital reserve requirement for the Mutual Mortgage Insurance Fund, otherwise known as MIF. While the FHA insurance program for single-family mortgages is growing and financially stable, the FHA's Home Equity Conversion Mortgage, HECM, program has been unstable. Keeping the program separate would not only help provide a more realistic picture of FHA's financial benefits, but they think that they would keep the program more sound. Opposition to rent control in response to the growing number of rent control programs that have been implemented by states and localities in recent years and that are being looked at by numerous. The board has adopted an updated rent control policy statement to replace the one that has been in place since 1997. That new statement reiterates N.A.R.'s position that government programs that limit rent increases or impose other rent-related restrictions on landlords unfairly restrict private property rights. Under this policy, N.A.R. encourages local and state associations to oppose legislative measures that allow for rent control or rent stabilization programs. And in fact, we have a big one that's coming up in Glendale. Is it in Glendale that's coming up, and Lackpore? So it's Glendale, Pasadena, and the county. So you know what happens when an adjacent city or a city around us adopts something that we don't like. When we had point of sale in Monterey Park that we got successfully overturned. All the other cities were looking at that, but then they saw how successful we came out in force and fought that, and we were successful in that battle. And that's something that we need to do in Pasadena and Glendale and any other city that's talking about rent control. Even though it's may not be where you're at, it's still important to you. If you're a property owner, investment property owner, it's still important to you because there's a trickle-down effect, and a monkey see, monkey do. So just keep that in mind. Lackpore has a meeting coming. That's somewhat private.
Yes, it's kind of.
Okay. Anyway, trust that you'll be well represented. Lee's on the board of directors, and I believe Yen and Helen are as well. So we'll.
You'll have another meeting that will be open.
Okay.
So there will be opportunities to speak.
Okay, real good. All right, and thanks for all your help on that end. N.A.R. provided legal assistance. This is something that both N.A.R. and C.A.R. do based on need. The board allocated $500,000 to two separate state realtor associations and two other organizations in the following legal cases. A copyright infringement suit filed by the California Association of Realtors against a website that has posted copyrighted C.A.R. forms and refused to remove them. I would go into more detail about this, but I got a lot of material to cover. So like I said, if you have questions about this, ask me afterward. A suit that an organization in Oregon intends to file against the National Marine Fisheries Service in response to the service's decision that FEMA's implementation of the National Flood Insurance Program violates the Endangered Species Act. A suit filed against the city of Portland, Oregon, seeking to invalidate an ordinance that requires landlords to provide relocation assistance to tenants in certain cases. N.A.R. funds will be used to reimburse the Oregon Association of Realtors for expenses related to its support for this case. A suit filed by a Guam organization claiming that federal government's decision to sharply reduce the percentage of requests for H-2B temporary work visas it approves is arbitrary and harmful to Guam's economy. On the MLS front, which luckily for me, I get my feet thrown right into the fire as the chair of MLS policy. So we had only really one controversial item, one that's going to be bubbling up at the next meeting that you'll be hearing about probably for the next at least 10 to 15 years. Everybody knows how long Board of Choice took to get to, and they're talking about well, something similar on the MLS side. I can't say the word, but it's being called the word that's very similar to Board of an acronym that's, or synonym, whatever, or not synonym, what am I getting at? The name is still emerging as to what they're calling it, but I can't call it because I'm supposed to let the name itself evolve itself out of whatever the members decide and the board decide. So, what's that? Yeah. So as far as policy changes, the board updated the N.A.R. lockbox security requirements to reflect technology changes, particularly increasing the use of mobile devices. In addition, the board approved the use of voice-activated searches to deliver IDX listing information. And finally, the board changed the model IDX rules to require, and that's important, to require that the listing brokers be identified in all IDX displayed. Previously, listing broker attribution was optional. Now it is required. You cannot pretend like a listing that's not put somebody else's listing on your website through an IDX, VOW, RETS feed. If you have web API, any of the new technology, good for you, but you still have to give attribution to the listing broker. You don't have to the listing agent, but you got to give it to the listing broker. You can't pretend that it's your listing when it's not. GSEs, as the federal government considers reform of the secondary mortgage market, the board reaffirmed N.A.R.'s position that any successor to Fannie Mae or Freddie Mac maintain an explicit government guarantee to ensure that mortgage funds remain available to credit-worthy home buyers even during economic downturns. In addition to N.A.R.'s housing finance reform principles, the board took the position that homes syndicated through government-guaranteed mortgage-backed securities should be assumable. RIN, the Real Estate Information Network. Bob Goldberg, President and CEO of the Realtors Information Network and Senior Vice President for N.A.R., said that more than 100,000 members had registered for a .realtor top-level domain. Do you all know that you have that available to you as an N.A.R. member benefit for 1 year? You get a .realtor domain free of charge. And then after that, of course, they start charging you like GoDaddy, and the price probably goes up. I don't know. I don't have one personally, but it's something that you may want to take advantage of if you don't already have a website or you don't have a domain name. It'd be a good one to think about getting in it, and it's free for the first year. So try it out. If you don't like it, you can always do something different. Realtor.com. Luke Glass, Executive Vice President of Move Inc., told the board that consumer awareness of Realtor.com is at 88% and said that the site now ranks third across the internet, just behind YouTube and Facebook, in terms of how much time users actually spend on the site per session. Glass also described a variety of innovations, including virtual reality tours, a service that will allow people to get neighborhood information using the camera on their mobile device, and a new resource section that enables members to easily share Realtor.com contents with their consumers. RPR. About 98% of the multiple listing services now provide data to Realtor Property Resource, otherwise known as RPR. According to RPR CEO Dale Ross, about 700,000 real estate professionals across the country now use RPR on an annual basis, and about 158,000 of those would be considered power users and tap the service regularly. There were 2 DSA service awards. Jack Woodcock of Las Vegas and Bob Kulik of California were announced as N.A.R. DSA recipients. They will both receive their awards during the next meeting in Chicago, November 6th. On the RPAC front, we have raised more than, and I sit on the RPAC Major Investor Council also at N.A.R. We've raised more than $17.5 million so far in 2017, which is more than half of our 2017 goal of $31.3 million. And the number of major investors is up to 19%, which is good. That's at the national level. California, we're lagging behind. We always do, but it's not to be unexpected. In the financial news, N.A.R. dues, you'll be happy to know, will remain at $120 for 2018, with $40 off this amount allocated for Realtor Party programs. The association membership stands at 1.23 million, and N.A.R. forecasts 1.24 million members in 2018. Is there anyone that wants me to provide any further background on what Project Upstream is, or voice activated IDX searches? Any questions other than what I've already gone through? I'm pretty much done with my report, unless anybody has any questions. Yeah, Bob.
I have one question. I had a very irate buyer, one of my listeners.
So did I. What a coincidence.
We upload data, and Zillow gets a hold of it. And you take any one of our sales, those pictures remain on Zillow forever.
Well,
They were
but
afraid someone's gonna come in and rob their house because they now have pictures. We gotta stop selling data.
well, okay, but the broker has discretion on that. You understand that, right? And when you log into C.A.R. MLS, you have a dashboard that you can control where your data goes. It's always been like that. So anything that they've got, they've either scraped illegally or they've gotten through the broker, because you have to opt in to that. And I'm not trying to be argumentative. I'm just trying to be informational in nature.
In my listing,
That people are perplexed when they.
now this buyer wants to come back and sue me because I allowed that data out there in the public.
You can request to Zillow to have the pictures pulled down, and they have to take them down. So you can make a request to them, and they have to take them down. But it has to be the previous homeowner, the one that was under contract. It can't be the new one, which I understand that there's a lot of people that after they buy a house, they don't want the interior pictures of their property. They can't be the one to do it, unfortunately, because they were never under contract. They don't have any obligations to anybody. So they have to go back and talk to the listing brokerage, and hopefully they've maintained a relationship and can get them to cooperate and get those pictures pulled down. I know that doesn't satisfy what you want, but it's the best answer I can give you right now. Anyone else? Yes, William.
Yeah, I just want to say I sincerely thank you for helping us fight rent control, because rent control makes no sense. It's just keeping the free market down, and it hurts all of our clients. So I just wanted to say thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Any other questions for Tom?
It's not a question, but along with rent control, which seems to be very concerning here. You mentioned Glendale, and also you mentioned the county. And a lot of people don't realize what that means about the county. Just 2 blocks from here, you're in the county. In that area, all the unincorporated, San Gabriel, South San Gabriel, Rosemead, Temple City, will all be under rent control if this passes at the county level. So be very alert to the county rent control problem, which is coming up.
City Terrace, Chapman Woods,
Yeah, right.
all these areas. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Okay, Marva?
Okay, I want to say thank you for bringing us the information. It seems like every time you guys go away to N.A.R. or C.A.R, you come back and you give this massive amount of information that half the people are falling asleep here if you check your orders. And one of the things that was key in what you shared shared here today that benefited us was the first presenter, where he would get the questions that we have that he's supposed to be taking back because he's the one going there to represent us. And yet we had to stop there. And to me, the other information is dry and unnecessary. And when you got to the rent control, he was so low, I really don't know what he has done for us. So my question to, when you pack up the 20 people, who are they? And what exactly do you do to benefit us when you go? Give us, when you come back, give me 5 bullets of what you did to benefit us. And how do you get to go there? The 20 people, the 5 people. You may not need to answer that today, but please take that into consideration when you give us your presentation. Secondly, you as our GAD, maybe if you can keep us apprised periodically of what's going on, then we have information that we can then use when you're speaking to us now. We've heard stuff and we know what's going on, because most of us, we're all computer savvy, so they're all on there. They know what the SB 123 and so forth. But you hitting the bullet on the head will help us. That's my take on it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate that, Marva. Let me just real quick mention a couple other things. And you know, when we go back there, the expression "drinking through a fire hose" comes to mind, because we get bombarded with so much information that it's hard for us. But a couple things I think are worth mentioning. AB 71, did everybody get that red alert this week? I hope that you responded with a phone call to our assemblyman. So what they're doing is, this is passed out of the committee in Sacramento. It's now going to the floor, and it would eliminate mortgage interest deduction on second homes. Tom. Good. Well, that's good. We've got some people here, but if you haven't done that yet, please do go online. You should have been getting notices both from our association and C.A.R.
No, the board sent it to, it's on the MLS. Right. C.A.R. would not have, but we sent it from the board, and it's on the MLS facing and a text message.
Okay, thank you. Last 2 things. From all the commercial people in the room, in our association, I keep hearing complaints about CoStar and LoopNet. Well, N.A.R. is pushing Xceligent. And so go on, find out about it, try to use it, help us promote it, and hopefully within a few years, I'll give it to you, Bob, afterwards. It's XCELI.
It should be in the bulletin.
Okay. And the
Every one of our members can get it.
okay, great, good advice. Last thing, anybody on Facebook? Do you realize that when you're on Facebook, you have to comply with the same rules that you do on a business card or an ad? You have to have your license number. It's your first point of contact. So pay attention to that. The DRE or BRE is going through and fining people, and some of the brokers up in Sacramento have been fined $3,000 per agent for violators. So pay attention, put that on your radar. I'm sorry we don't have more time, but thank you for your attention.